And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another weekly review with The Robot, brought to you by the Movie Pope. And here he is, bolts and nuts akimbo, The Robot.
Starting next week, the guys are diving into Wicked Part 1 and its sequel, Wicked for Good, and they're going to be pretty in-depth, dense reviews, diving into the lore of Oz. But before we ever got Wicked, be it in its cinematic, stage, or literary form, there was the OG, the one that kick-started it all, with The Wizard of Oz, and we all know the classic with Judy Garland that has embedded itself in the imagination of every person who's seen it, either in its entirety or in clips, from 1939 to the present. To say it has staying power is as obvious as saying snow is cold, but it speaks volumes to individuals and communities who find their voice, expressing themselves in ways that cut through the malarkey of tribalism and social constructs. So, before Lee and Luca kick off their reviews of both Wicked films with the boys from the Story Proof podcast, I'll be kicking things off with my review. I'm always on point duty, aren't I? Indeed, it is such a burden and responsibility, one to which I am always prepared. I know some of you guys are hunkering down due to Winter Storm Fern right now, so if you've got time and power, why not spend it with me and journey into the land of Oz, to a time and place where things were a whole lot simpler. Dorothy Gale is just an ordinary girl from Kansas who gets tossed into this weird land. But in watching this, there is a sort of messianic aura about Dorothy. She's not just there on a tourism visa or whatever, but she's tasked with finding and dispatching the Wicked Witch of the West, who's very eager to claim the ruby slippers from her. Women and shoes, am I right? Never could quite understand that. Anyway, this teenage girl is given this really adult task and emerges triumphant at the end. But it strikes me as odd that only she can do it. Why can't anyone else in Oz perform this sordid deed? Is the wizard too much of a yellow belly? Are the denizens of Oz just too indolent, fearful, or apathetic to even take it upon themselves to rid themselves of this green menace? And let's be honest, it's not like the witch is going about and causing daily mayhem like it's another day at the office. Dorothy's mission and the way she is perceived is like how the Jews expected the Messiah to be, to come into the world and overturn the powers that be and establish the kingdom of heaven on the earth. Granted, she doesn't go that far, but there's a new world order that comes about as a result of Dorothy's actions. Also, it's funny how she can just off another person and walk away with a clean conscience. Anyone who's familiar with The Wizard of Oz knows that the Wicked Witch of the West is the villain. She's mean, green, and doesn't go anywhere without her flying monkeys. But for the longest time we've held to that narrative without ever wondering why that's the case. After all, when Dorothy lands in Oz, the place looks pretty decent. It's not a war-torn environment, houses are intact, and there aren't mountains of skulls as far as the eye can see. In fact, she isn't harassing the Emerald City or the Wizard, and yet everyone can agree the witch has got to go. So what gives? It's like how the book of Genesis just mentions the Nephilim and then goes on to the next sentence like it was nothing. Leave it to Greg Maguire to fill in the blanks and give us wider context. He's basically doing to Elphaba what the Book of Enoch did for the Nephilim. Give us a backstory as to what happened and how it led to the present and familiar story. If we take at face value, the witch is just wicked for the sake of it. But Greg Maguire's edition offers us a complex and, dare I say, a somewhat sympathetic reason as to why she ends up as public enemy number one. Of course, Frank Baum probably didn't anticipate or wish to go any further into Elphaba's history other than what we see, but it's nice to get context here. The three companions who journey with Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, seem like throwaway characters. They're just there to keep Dorothy company and occasionally offer a helping hand. But they're mainly there for personal reasons, as well. The Scarecrow needs a brain, the Tin Man needs a heart, and the Lion just needs a shot of courage. But along the way they exhibit qualities that, effectively, nullify their desires because they were already there. To take it a step further, they represent us and the different aspects of human existence. We all need common sense to survive, love to feel, and courage when it counts. To take it even furthermore, they also represent faith, hope, and love, as espoused by Paul in 1 Corinthians. I must be on a theological bend right now. Never have a conversation with Luca, because it will quickly go to places you're not prepared to enter. Anyway, the Scarecrow desires knowledge but shows faith in what he believes and acts. The Tin Man is, well, all about love, and the Lion knows that to hope is courage, and to show courage is to hope. Dorothy doesn't need just one of these three but the entire set because they complement and complete not only each other but her in her journey to get home. The Wizard of Oz, since its introduction in 1939, has gone on to spawn a franchise that includes musicals, spin-off films, TV miniseries, and books that explore different aspects of the main characters as well as the world around them. And they add levels of complexity that are, at times, much appreciated as well as befuddling. Still, in watching this movie one can walk away with different takes and interpretations. It can harken back to a simpler place and time before modernity ruined everything. It can give voice to someone who's struggling to come to terms with who they are. It can have theological undertones that one can readily identify with what's in the Bible. Whatever your takeaway is, The Wizard of Oz has an impact on some levels to everyone who encounters it, whether they want to admit to it or not. And frankly, I'd be shocked if someone came along and said it negatively impacted their life, because at that point I'd have to question what's going on here and if we need to call in the professionals. I'm not going to stand here and say my interpretation is better than yours or that this movie is better than any other cinematic version out there, because that isn't necessarily true. What I will say, however, is that when you watch this movie it opens you up in a way that lets your guard down and brings out a flood of emotions. What those emotions are I will leave it up to you, but there can be no denying that Judy Garland embodies the innocence of a girl who, at the end of the day, just wants to go home. And wherever you are, whatever point you are in life, there is always a desire to go home. Thanks for watching, and if you don't mind, please leave us a like, it helps a lot. And while you're at it, subscribe so you never miss an episode drop. This is the Robot signing off.